So I'm gonna call to order the select board meeting on Monday, May 2nd, 2022. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is the warrants. I have the general fund warrants, dated April 29, 2022, and the amount of $16,234.18. Pretty much daily, day-to-day stuff on here, life insurance. Nothing really sticks out.
Move to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Brendan has infrastructure development and
Yeah, I've got the payroll,
payroll.
April 22nd, 2022, in the amount of $22,630.30. And then April 29th, 2022, in the amount of $44,414.02. Of which $21,000 and change were agency checks. So I make a motion we approve both.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I got an infrastructure development warrant for the town hall, $2,400 invoice from PCI and 2 invoices from Comcast, as if we don't already pay them enough, they had to hit us for service installs. Yeah, that's nice. May 2nd, 2022, infrastructure development warrant, $2,811.35. Make a motion we approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So we bought a brush cutter for the stormwater utility from, I think it's supposed to say CCR, but it says CCT.
Oh.
So I'm just gonna make a pen correction to that. Yep, so are we gonna do like some kind of a, now that we've got different departments buying equipment like that, are we gonna do some kind of an inventory software or something so we can keep it all separate? I know we talked about that a couple years ago, but we didn't really go anywhere with
We haven't purchased any new equipment, but we have the
it.
What kind of a brush cutter is this?
It's,
walk behind.
yeah,
Oh, not a.
it's a walk behind to do around ponds
Oh,
a
it's
couple
not a
times
weed
a year.
whacker.
Not a heavy weed whacker type
No.
blade.
No, it's yeah, it doesn't say exactly what it is. It says brush cutter.
Is it like a bush hog?
The brush,
Yes.
behind brush hog,
It's a
What,
list
how-
price.
Slide?
28 inch.
Oh,
Looks like you or I would have paid $4,400 plus tax, and we're paying $3,500 and change for no tax. So not a bad deal, I guess. So, stormwater utility warrant, May 2nd, 2022, $3,511.30. Make a motion we approve.
Second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
As we start buying stuff, though, we should probably start to at least keep a spreadsheet to make sure we keep it all.
We have a spreadsheet already. We just don't have new software to do
We
it.
have a general ledger.
Yeah, we have that too. We have an insurance list, a real short one that shows all of our equipment, but I mean, if you want something more complicated, we can talk about it.
Okay, moving on, public comment. Anybody in the audience?
Do you want minutes?
You gotta do
Minutes to approve.
Oh, I skipped the minutes. So in your packet, you have the minutes of Monday, April 18, 2022. Want to make a motion to approve?
So,
So moved.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're gonna move on to public comment. Okay, hearing none. No. So moving on, next item is debt management policy adoption. So everybody saw through it. Anybody have any changes real quick? Hopefully not, because we talked about this enough.
Move that it be accepted and approved.
Any
Yeah,
further?
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna,
go
just
ahead.
ask, not really a comment, but, cause I wasn't here, but, so it's gonna stay at the 1,500
Yes.
as it has been, correct? And how much is that approximately per, total?
5.3 million.
Okay, I just wanna know what that total was. Okay, thank you.
Yep, it was just for your benefit, Brian, it was decided not to change it, but we said we'd still put a piece in here that it was, when it was last reviewed and have you
Yep.
re-sign it. So
Yep.
that way people,
Date stamp
it doesn't
again.
look like a 10-year-old policy, it's been reviewed and
Mhm.
Yeah,
conscious
what I-
decision to.
Okay, that's what I pulled from it, but, okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're on town manager's report, and Carrie, take it away.
Awesome. So the first thing we have, listed here, more just for your information, but I wanted to document it in case, and answer questions if you have any, or if anyone from the public has any. The much discussed ARPA money, which now I can't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but it's the COVID money. The federal government has granted us those funds, but it comes with a few strings, so we're required once a year, every year at this time of year, to certify that we either have or haven't spent the money, and then we have to document how we spent the money. There's been some federal webinars, there was a statewide VLCT webinar. VLCT actually hired one person whose sole job is to assist municipalities with this process. And then she's the one who prepared the summary you have in your packets, which is pretty short, but it's nice that it summarizes an almost 440-page federal document that probably nobody would read. So what we did as a town is accept that final rule, which on its base level appears like we're changing what we're spending our money on, but we're not. It just allows us the latitude to change that up if, for instance, the sewer project wasn't gonna work for us. But it reduces the amount of reporting that we're required to do, gives us a little more latitude on what we spend it on, but doesn't preclude us spending it on anything we previously thought, like the sewer project.
Did it seem like accepting that, right, gave, a little bit less red tape type
Yes,
stuff in the future?
absolutely a lot less. Yeah, the federal webinar, I guess, was more or less saying, look, this is the one and only time you'll get to do this. Next year in April, we'll have to certify whether we've used it or not and how, but this is the only time that we can take that final rule and take advantage of it, which is right now. There were,
So,
go ahead.
What's, you're talking about the sewer project, so what is it gonna take to get to whether we wanna do it or not?
Well, I mean, as we're planning right now, we have a grant, I'll call it a grant,
Yeah,
right?
so we're right now, we're going through the Clean Water Fund to do the initial scoping study, so we've hired an engineering firm. They're underway, they're gonna let us know this winter, early spring sometime, what potentially a sewer system would cost. And then you guys would decide if you still wanted to continue on with that, or if you wanted to do something else, if it was, outside the ballpark of.
So if,
Acceptable.
when they tell you how much it's gonna cost, is that just to build the thing, or is that acquisition of land
They-
and right-of-ways and?
It's usually
They give you
conceptual.
a draft budget of everything from acquiring the land, the right of ways, building it, as well as what the annual ongoing costs are and what you potentially would have to charge people annually to make it solvent and replace itself and all that.
So that would be charged to the user.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
if you don't use it, you don't pay.
Right, so yeah, we've always thought from the beginning that the users would pay all of it. ARPA would be the only funding that theoretically wouldn't be user funded.
Is that the one, Corey, where if they do the study and we don't like it, that's the one we don't have to pay back, correct?
We don't have to pay it back until we build it, but the state's given the wink, wink, nod, nod, they haven't made municipalities pay that back even when they've decided to build it for a long time.
I mean, it just seems kinda low.
Yeah, it's about $125,000 of work
Yeah.
that they can do for us, but the nice part is once you have that number, you potentially could go, so like what the state does, Jack, in a lot of that situation is there's money, it's through a federal program, so, and the state puts money into it, but the state may put $10 million into a fund and pull $50 million down from the state and may put, say it's a $10 million project, our $2 million, the state may give us another $6 million towards it with all the clean water money. And so we might have to figure out, $2 million getting split among the users. But the system they're designing would have potentially 400 users, households on it at this point.
10 million would be a low number.
Right.
Because
Mhm.
that's what it was gonna cost 10 years ago.
Right.
Right.
But whatever the number is, we'll have a number, and we can decide, no, the nice part with this is there's more flexibility. The hard part is you have to decide by 2024 how you're spending this money, and then you have to spend it all by 2026. Or else you gotta give it back.
Right.
I don't think anyone wants to give it back to the feds.
And they are encouraging, you'll note in that document too, that we have some public outreach to try to get some feedback on what the community feels we should spend the money on. They're pushing that.
So we're gonna start that fairly soon,
Any idea about how much grant money we could raise? Cause
The state just put $100 million into municipal clean water funding, and the state wants to build this stuff out, the feds wanna build it out. I mean, we're on a list of potentially that could come down to, that we threw a larger than $10 million number out, like 15 million, 20 million, I can't remember the exact one, just as a placeholder with the state that we could be coming to you for this kind of money in the next couple of years. So that the state knows how to build their stuff on it. But what the state does is they only have to put 10 or 20% in, and a lot of times what the state has done is put the money, the local match in through bonded dollars from the state and pull down the federal dollars to build these systems. Gotta remember, we sit on one of the two bays everyone talks about when it comes to water quality. All of our farmers are permitted and doing their job, so to clean up this lake, it's gonna take stormwater work, and it's gonna take eventually sewer work, you know, and probably the city doing a little more on their end too eventually, on that sewer plant, but there's only 3 ways to clean up the lake.
could drain it.
Drain it.
we're gonna
Little
have
bit
to
of
mine
water.
phosphorus out of it, cause they're gonna be able to get any.
There you go.
Any other questions for now?
That's good.
Okay. That was somewhat challenging, given that everyone in the country was under the same deadline. Super special. So I'll go to the next one, which is our stormwater update. Emily is on the call. And you should have in your packets the grant application for Tanglewood. So we are requesting permission to go forward and apply for this grant.
So moved.
You wanna just spiel it real quick?
I
Are
think
you
that
good?
grant
That was more or less it. I mean, if you have questions, Emily's here to answer them, but
we've been talking about Tanglewood long
We
enough. Let's try to get some money in here and fix this thing. And I think there's money in the stormwater budget enough to be able to handle it without the grant, even, you know, that's how high of a priority it is, so. I don't know about you guys, but I imagine Jack, even back 15 years ago, lost a lot of time talking about Tanglewoods Road and everything else.
Too
so
much?
That's how I feel about it too, so I move that we approve the grant application and move on.
Where's this grant coming from again now?
the state.
The state.
Anybody wanna second that?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right, none opposed. All right, so the next item under town manager was the stormwater ordinance. We did talk about this last time. You have a couple versions. The track changes version is probably gonna be the most helpful. Is there anything you wanna add to that, Emily? You wanna summarize?
So I think that there was some discussion in our last meeting about what we should actually call the stormwater department, stormwater utility. So I changed the language on that to just be stormwater department. And I have no attachment either way. We can change it however you decide, but I didn't hear a consensus at the last meeting. So that was one of the major edits. I just went through the whole thing and made it consistently stormwater department ordinance and stormwater department throughout. And then I cleaned up the definitions a little bit to get rid of definitions that were in there that are no longer used in the ordinance. And cleaned up the highlighted, like, so for sections that weren't lining up correctly, cleaned those up. And I added, so the language for parcels that don't have impervious, I did change the language on that. so that we wouldn't have to deal with going through the credit manual. It just says cleanly in here that parcels without impervious will not be billed. And it'll be easy enough for me to track it and add accounts as needed. I realized after the fact that'll be fine. And then I feel like those were the major points. The
So
one
part-
thing,
Sorry.
what's that?
I was gonna say there was a part in about farms, right?
So the farms come into play in the credit manual, which we don't have to approve tonight. And I've been running through all of the numbers to see how much of a hole that would put in the budget. I think we can pull it off for this year to give farms a 50% credit. I'll definitely have to shuffle things around in my budget because I think it will be significant enough that I would have to take it out of somewhere else, obviously. But I don't think it's impossible. So I think if people feel strongly about that, I think we can move forward with that also, but that is not actually in the ordinance itself.
These lots that don't have impervious, I mean, what are you talking here? Forest land?
It's that takes care of a lot of ag land too. There's a lot of ag fields that don't have like even a gravel access or anything getting into them. So I've been trying to go through all of those. I think it's about a $7,000 to $8,000 hole in the budget, but that's one that I really feel strongly about, that we need to clean that up so that it's not in there. It would be forest land, it would be ag land that doesn't have roads or buildings or any structures on it. It's I don't know the number. It is quite a few parcels that are impacted by it. And that was definitely when the bills went out last summer, that was one of the biggest outcries I heard from the community. It sort of negates the whole argument that we're billing for impervious, but then these parcels that don't have any are also being billed.
Can we, go ahead, Jonathan.
So I got a question. So if we call this a utility, can we still bill the state?
We call it a department. It's a
Oh,
department.
Or
it's
if
own
we call it a department, can you still bill the state?
I believe you can. I mean, we called our Route 7 North area a district and we still charge people differently. I think it's the accounting and keeping it separate that make it different. We have an ordinance already.
What
We're
was,
not getting rid of it.
what was the state is requiring that what be created by 20 whatever. We created this out of a mandate from the state, right?
Oh,
Right.
the Fed rule that was enacted.
We have to build all those systems by
Right.
2036, they don't care how we do it.
I thought the state,
The stormwater utility is how we pay for it.
Right.
We need to stick with utilities.
so that's what the state wants created as a stormwater utility.
Well,
That's what-
either that or they'd let us folk.
Property tax.
That way we
right?
can
It's
call it
the
a
other-
utility fee. If it's a department of town government, it gets a little bit more intertwined. If, like,
If you feel better about utility, we can still call it a
Yeah.
utility, but either way, it's a broader way to collect the revenues as opposed to just putting it in the general fund and charging taxpayers.
right.
This allows us to,
I'll-
go ahead, Emily.
I think the challenge in St. Albans is that because it doesn't come under the Public Works, Department of Public Works, where most of the stormwater utilities in the state all fall under that category. And when this was originated, it went into its own department instead of being under that department. I think that's where there's a challenge in the language, but I know from working in South Burlington, like we were a stormwater utility under the Department of Public Works. And I think that's how most towns are doing it. So I can change it back easily to stormwater utility if that's what everybody is more comfortable with. It really doesn't matter either way to me.
So and now when we're doing all these stormwater ponds with the new brush cutter there, does that get charged back to the utility or does it come out of Public Works?
No, it gets,
The maintenance will all get billed to the utility.
think we did a lot of prep work to publicize it as a stormwater utility.
And it still is, so
Yeah.
if you think that muddies the water, you can call it a utility.
don't-
So-
an easy fix.
Am I correct in thinking that what Emily's saying, there's two ways of doing this? You can just keep it in the general fund budget, raise the funds,
No.
no?
No, we're
No.
gonna keep it as a utility and keep it separate.
I think we'll call it, keep it as a utility.
Yep.
Everybody agree with that?
Okay.
I mean, it isn't, yeah, I mean, keyword stormwater, right?
Yeah,
we-
I
correct.
mean, if it,
I just like the separation, so when people look in, it's just,
Mhm.
they can,
Yeah.
if they really dig into the weeds of it, they can see like, well, they can see the funding and how like,
Well, I'd hate somebody to
That's
come
how
over
we
and
got the new brush cutter, so there wouldn't be any weeds to
Wow.
dig into.
yeah, there we go. So can we approve this thing?
So that-
as
so-
amended?
That said, the other definition then is my title being director. Right now, it's in here as Director of Stormwater Department. Do you want me to change it to Director of Stormwater Utility?
I think so. I think you should to keep it clean.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
Should all be the same.
easy fix.
So do we,
Okay.
do we wanna approve this thing as amended or approve a clean copy next meeting?
We really,
we can just approve it as amended, I can come in and sign it, right?
Well, that's why it has all our signatures on it, no?
Yeah, it does.
So
Well,
we'll
you can
just
sign
a fresh
it.
Copy
We
next
can
meeting.
sign it, you're just gonna change a couple of words, right?
that's
Is there a
correct.
word on the signature page that needs to be changed?
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, the signature, let's see what that looks like.
There is one?
There is, yep.
What's it called?
Just sign the signature page and we'll bring up,
Yep.
Well, there's a-
make sure the
it
clean
says
So
copy's
it
out
says
there on the web.
stormwater department ordinance.
I know, but Jen
Yeah,
said
I-
she'll bring a clean one at the next meeting and you can
Okay.
re-sign it, but if you sign it and date it today, it'll be fine.
Be in effect.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That's fine.
Yep.
As amended. I'll make a motion, we adopt the ordinance as amended.
Second, Jack's got it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
I, yeah, I like the impervious out of there, I like that.
Me too.
All right, we're done for now.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
The next one I have on here is the Equity and Inclusion Grant. It was approved to move forward with it at our last meeting. I'm not expecting you to go through that whole spreadsheet now. Jen and I have been waiting for more information on budget numbers. So when we looked at, well, we used this as as framework, but it was hard to figure out how we would propose to spend $10,000 without getting budget numbers from some people. So, for instance, we've been doing almost every year a Respect in the Workplace class. We have our board members do it too. And they have a more in-depth class where they can, instead of just respect in the workplace, it's equity and inclusion and how do you get different people to serve on your boards, those kind of things. So we're still waiting for budget numbers. I don't have them yet. People are
Perfect.
kind of slow getting
So we'll
back to
bring
us.
this up again next meeting.
Yeah, you're gonna see it
Okay.
again, and hopefully we have some framework, and we're just gonna shoot out a proposed idea, and you can say, yeah, that's what we were thinking, no, it's not what we're thinking. Because it's pretty open-ended, how do you spend how do you want to spend the $10,000? We have some time, but I don't wanna spend like a month or two, just because it's first come, first served.
Okay.
I don't know how excited people are to apply for the money or not, but
And when's the deadline?
there isn't a deadline.
Oh, just
It
first
started
come, okay.
about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's just first come, first served. When the money's gone, then they'll stop accepting applications.
And when you're getting budget things, you were going through, are you like, and I wasn't here last meeting if you
Yeah,
covered
yeah.
it, but, like, website help, or is it those things that we had looked at?
Well, like for instance, we're getting some of the low-lying fruit. I think that was easy to do, and I'd want anyway. Is how much does that interpretation service cost? Is there a sign-on cost, and then how
Yeah.
much is it per, minute or so that you use it? Because sometimes we do have people coming into town hall that English isn't their first language, and
Exactly.
this one family, there's only one teenage son who knows how to speak English, and if he leaves or isn't there, it's really hard for us to communicate with each other. So I think that's a really great thing to have available and have the account all set up. I don't know how much it's gonna cost.
So what do you do in that case? Is it you call someplace and they speak to the
Yes,
people?
yep, because Judicial Bureau's been using that for a while. I'm aware of that, and what they do when someone comes in, they try to get an understanding of specifically what language they're comfortable with, because some languages are subvariants of certain countries, right? It's not just English in the whole language, in the whole country, so they just get somebody online and they serve as an interpreter for that person. Yeah, it's pretty effective way to do it, to get somebody online and do it that way, so.
I just know when we were looking at this months ago, and Corey had brought up, some of the work of consultants in places were
Correct.
$20,000+.
Yep.
So there's definitely a limit to what 10,000 can do.
We probably could spend it very, very quickly, but it's more of a policy decision, how do you wanna spend that? I mean, in some cases, we can hold public meetings too, but those, I don't think they'd be all that expensive to hold. But maybe having someone come and facilitate it that isn't one of us, would be helpful, and so that would cost money.
So did that work too, like if somebody needed somebody to sign or something?
Oh, I would hope so, but I have not asked, that's a good question to ask as well, right?
Yeah,
Nobody-
that's actually, when you go in and look at that interpretation information, that's the first thing they bring
Oh,
up is
Perfect.
the hard of hearing.
Okay.
So that's what I'm waiting for numbers on that.
Cool.
Thanks, Jen.
Anyway, so you'll hear,
So we'll talk about it next time, is that the plan?
that is,
And come
yep,
back with some ideas?
May 16th.
Oh, and you're gonna bring back the numbers.
Yeah, I'd like to at least give you a proposed budget. I mean, but as you read that, this is the spreadsheet that was
Yeah.
asked for.
Yeah.
That's what we went through, so if there's something on there that you feel passionately about, let me know. Cause we went through it kinda quickly, it's like an hour or so, when we did do it a little while ago.
Perfect.
No motion requested on that one yet. So the next one is V-Trans, Route 36, relinquishment, and I put near Bay because someone actually asked me if we were talking about, like
Yeah,
going up
entire
over the
thing.
hill, towards Fairfield, and we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is the area that starts at Adams Street, on Lake Street, that's where the town line starts, and it goes to right before Black Bridge. Over here, we already own Black Bridge, so what we're talking about is that real estate in between. And the language, Corey can probably come up here, cause you might have a question for him, just in case. So, the Transportation Committee did ask me to testify, and they asked one question, and it was really simple about, are there any bridges or box culverts on that stretch of the road, and there wasn't. And so this language,
Basically,
short,
well, it's been brought up a number of select board meetings in the past, and I just happened to be sitting in a room with someone at V-Trans, and going, what's going on with this, and why is no one getting back to the town? And couldn't figure out, we didn't have enabling language to allow the Secretary of Transportation to enter into negotiations or to turn over the road. Secretary can't do it without legislative approval. So the language going in the T-bill would give a 10-year window, so the authority will go away in 10 years for us as the town to negotiate with the state and see if we come to an agreeable resolution to take over the plowing and maintenance of that section of road, and then what we would potentially get in return for that. I don't know what it would be. It'd be up to us to negotiate with V-Trans and you to approve, but it sets the stage for us to have that conversation and gives the secretary authority when we come to a deal, and if they agree to it, we agree to it, that we execute it with just your votes instead of going back through the legislature.
How hard can it be to say we're gonna plow it?
So it's not just that, it's cause that'll be an increased cost to us in trucks and maintenance. Is the state gonna pay us for that? How often are they gonna repave the road? Are they, theoretically, we were hoping they would fix the intersection before we took over.
Oh,
there's
the road,
often
so-
There's no theoretical
negotiations.
to
Yeah.
that, like that's.
Well, we would have to, so
Yep.
those are things we can negotiate for, because they would like to get rid of it, cause it's a pain in the neck for them
right.
to
I
plow
know
that section, so.
We figured
What-
if we could get all those two intersections fixed out of it and then have some third party review the stormwater.
So you wanna do all that
infrastructure.
before they
Yeah.
Well, we would potentially, so originally, they could have done language where they just gave it to us, and I was like, no, I don't have the authority to take that right
What's
now.
the,
Nor
I
do we
mean,
want
I guess
it.
I'm ignorant, but what's the advantage of the town taking that over?
So,
Why
I guess-
not let them take care of it?
right, so, I mean, what we've discovered after doing some analysis is they do give us, we already get state aid to highway, they give us a significantly higher rate to take care of a road of that class, clearly. And because we'd have more latitude,
They give you $13,000 per mile per year for maintenance.
Yep.
They pave a minimum every 20 years. We
Mhm.
thought about negotiating language to 15, since we have 10. We figured we'd split the difference, or try to, and then get them to pay for any storm, any cross culverts or anything major ditching that might have needed to be done or cleaned up, and then get the 2 impaired intersections down in the Bay Area addressed entirely with state money as a contingency. And it seemed to be pretty well supported by the businesses in the area to do that, but we wouldn't take on any of this without making sure that we got thoroughly paid.
Yeah, like the
They
intersection.
basically hire us to take care of it.
Right. The intersection needs to be surveyed, you know, there's some things that we wanted more latitude with parking, and they were not willing to help us out at all
We
in
wanted
that
to-
regard.
We were sick of people almost getting run down by the creamy stand, and we wanted
Yeah.
to add some parallel or, turn in parking
Yeah.
on the right-hand side of the road if you're headed up this way, and they quickly, like, anytime you wanna do anything on a section of road that they want you to take over, they're notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
Like the Sash, the St. Albans State Highway, we've been trying to get a crosswalk across it to get kids safely to the complex for,
50 years.
yeah, and every
It's a long
time we
time.
go, V-Trans is,
Oh, yeah.
they put a stick in the mud every time, and
Yeah.
it's interagency political BS that needs to stop.
They
to be
want
honest
it,
with
they
you.
don't want it, and we already travel those roads with plow trucks, just seemed good for both sides at this point, if we can negotiate favorable terms.
Yeah, they're a piece of work, that outfit.
V-Trans?
Yeah.
They have the power, they don't like to give it up.
So, the bill doesn't do anything, force you into anything, but it gives us that project that's been on the list for a while,
And that was supposed to get done, what, like 3 years ago?
before COVID.
The
Yeah, it was
assistant-
early 2020, I think.
The conference chair was supposed to put language into a T-bill 3 years ago, and we're just seeing it now because you opened up the conversation, so thanks Senator Parent and Representative McCarthy, don't know where you've been, but thanks for everything
He
you've
helped
done.
out at the last minute here.
At the
but-
very last second, yeah.
But it should be in there, so it should get done in the T-bill, cause we also got the extension of this, we matched, it's the same exact language, they just changed the road from 207 for that easement negotiation, so that's why we have legal authority to enter negotiations sometime this summer and see if we can resolve that or not. If not, stays the way it is.
You think that'll change anything, Corey, for the Sash, or no?
No, this isn't any authority for
What-
the Sash.
Okay.
We'd have to take on that as,
Problem with the Sash is that's a federal road,
yeah,
Federal.
that could
that's
take a
not
little
even a
bit longer.
V-Trans road, that's a,
Mhm.
The 89 axis.
Mhm.
yeah, that's a, that we go to the state goes to the feds, and then it comes back down.
There's not enough bureaucracy.
So if there's enough of a headache going from this step, taking that next step is even bigger headache.
Yeah, I've been dealing with it for 40 years about a sap line under the interstate.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't believe the paper I got on this thing.
You should turn your barn now that you're retired into a red tape factory.
Yeah,
Yeah, you and Sam Smith with his little easement underneath.
yeah, well, he has one, I
Okay.
don't. I just took it upon myself to
Didn't they used
start
to call
using
that
it 40
Smithfield
years.
up there? back then?
They're having a fit every year. We
Yeah.
have that discussion in my dooryard every year.
Alright, so that's that.
That's
I'll-
it. And the last item under town manager is the permit extension, there's no motions requested, we get copied on those things. And I don't have anything else under town manager.
What are they gonna do there with it? What are they trying to do with the Champlain vet clinic here?
I think because construction took so long.
Yeah,
because there
I
was a
think that was
delay.
it.
I don't know if COVID delayed it and they just, because that,
An extension
that
of
came,
the-
that came in front of the review board back when I was on it.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but,
Several, many months ago.
yeah, so.
What do they gotta extend on?
Well, cause they're the curb cuts, well, sorry.
Oh, is the curb-
The
Right,
curb
right.
cut's moving, I think, further north,
Oh, yeah.
It looked like it was supposed to be done by the end of 2021, and clearly
something
it
like that,
just-
or however
nothing got done in
maybe.
2021, it feels like.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
okay.
No motions requested on that one.
Okay, scheduled next meetings, Monday, May 16th,
Mhm.
and Monday, June 6th, 6:30. Town offices are closed Monday, May 30th for Memorial Day. Green Up Day, I believe is this Saturday. Alan, do you have the bags, or does Anna have the bags still?
I have a few left at the garage,
Okay.
but, Liz and Brad Jackson have the rest of them. They're the
Okay.
coordinators for the town.
Perfect.
Their name and numbers are on the posters throughout, and I think we have them on the website, I believe.
Perfect.
And I have some bags too. I have a bag.
Okay, so moving on, other business, anybody have any other business?
Yeah, I'm looking at the revenue report, Anna provides this every meeting, and a couple cool things to note. Licenses and permits, building permit revenue, we're in the last quarter of the fiscal year, but we're already at 120% of expected revenue. Occupancy permits, which really tell you what the real estate market's doing in your town, because usually the only time anybody gets an occupancy permit is when they sell or build. We budget $500, we're at 1,075, so we're at 215%, which is pretty neat. You go down LOT revenue, we're at $823,723.27 with 1 quarter to go. We'll break $1 million for the first time. Well, not, did we break $1 million last year?
I think so, right?
We did.
No,
I don't
No.
think we did.
We're like 980 or 970.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was close.
We're on track.
Pretty close.
So at least with inflation, there's like some silver lining. And then I also thought it was really neat to note that we budget $1,000 for zoning penalties, and we've only collected $300. So that means a lot of people are in compliance, which is good. So that's all. I thought that was neat.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, take it, we're gonna have an executive session, if anybody wanna make a motion to enter executive session. I don't, the thing's not on the right
I'm
pen,
gonna
but-
make a
Oh, sorry.
motion to
Totally
enter
forgot.
executive session under the provision of the law that governs that part of the meeting, and to discuss a contractual matter, and to invite the town manager and director of operations.
Second, anybody?
Oh, second, yeah.
Second, sorry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.